Thank you so much for staying with Citizen Weekend. Time for one-on-one. The hashtag is one-on-one. Talk to us on Twitter. Send in your questions. Today we're celebrating early achievers in this nation. We're looking at persons that have made it and indeed defied that odd that comes across as age is an obstacle. Age has never been an obstacle for these two guys that I have in studio. Amazing young man and gorgeous, lovely young lady as well. With me in studio tonight is Yvonne Khamati. A lot of you know her. She's very active on Twitter. And of course, she's made headlines for a long time. She's been on the political scene. She's Kenya's youngest diplomat yet. She is the deputy head of mission, Kenyan Embassy in Somalia. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. And of course, also with us is DNG, Davidson Gebweni. I'm sure that's what your mom calls you.
Majina Serikali, Davidson.
And he calls himself a shot caller. I don't know, you know, big names. He's Kenya's #1 hype man. He's a recording and performing artist. He's an MC, he's a radio and TV presenter. Of course, he presents Forza Kata right here on TV. And of course, he's a PR and events mogul. I hope I got that right. I mean, there's so many titles right there. So we're celebrating these young guys because they've made it. And you can send in your questions, you can send in your comments. What is standing in between you and just taking that opportunity, grabbing that chance as the youth in this country? Let me begin with you, Balozi. You stood out when you burst into the limelight at only 21 years of age. That was with Ford Kenya. Fast forward to you being Kenya's youngest diplomat ever. What's your background? What's your story? Where did this all start?
I think that there's a misconception that I got into the public eye and into limelight by being in Ford Kenya. I actually started as being a youth advisor to the United Nations on the Kyoto Protocol and multilateral environment agreements when I was 18. Mm-hmm. And we started that by having a conference with heads of state to lobby and engage them on the process of carbon emissions and trying to ensure that George Bush, Gordon Brown then, who was in Australia, Kazuma, who was in Japan, got in and ratified this. This was the process that led me into international environmental politics. And during this process, I met then President Moi, I met then the minority leader, Nyanze, who was Minister for Environment. And they actually pushed me to get into Kenyan politics. Uh-huh. So it was a process that started way before, and that started when I was 18. Uh-huh. Getting into politics, during one of my meetings at the United Nations where we were discussing youth participation in leadership, I met one Honorable Gitobi Manyara, who remains my mentor and my friend today, uh-huh, who said to me, "You're very active in the international scene, in the global scene, in the regional scene. Why don't you come home and do something with the networks that you have?" And he was then Secretary General of Ford Kenya. During that process, I met the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who is the leader of opposition today, and he too felt the same way. And he invited me to join his party, which was then NDP, that was merging with KANU. And I had to discuss with my then bosses, Jan Pronk, who was then Minister for Environment in the Netherlands, and Elizabeth Wren, who was in Finland. And I remember being in Brazil with Anyang Nyong'o and Professor Edward Oyugi and telling them, there are these two parties that want me to get in, what do I do? Uh-huh. As I was negotiating, Gitobi Manyara, being a smart man, decided to discuss it with my parents and my mother in particular. And my mother said, fine, Ford Kenya works. When I got back in, I had been elected into Ford Kenya in the executive committee as Secretary for Environment. Mm-hmm. Thus began my political journey in Kenya.
And at 21, you're running for the Makadara parliamentary seat. You're literally in a den of lions because you're going against big names, just men. What did it take for you as a woman and at that tender age, okay, tender because 21 is pretty young, yes, to find your voice and even gain the respect of those gentlemen?
Well, first and foremost, they called me Simba wa Makadara. They used to say, Simba wa Makadara akiguruma wanaume wanatetemeka. Uh-huh. So I was not a pushover. I had been dealing in the international politics with former President George Bush, Sr. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I had been dealing with, prime ministers and heads of state at this level, discussing serious multilateral environmental agreements. So coming back down was very basic, that I was dealing with people who could only see me as an object, as a figure. That did not scare me whatsoever. And I was lucky that I had a very good network and support system. When I joined Ford Kenya, for example, with Gitobi Manyara as my mentor and as Secretary General, He knew the kind of scenario I was coming into and ensured I was protected. I remember a day when he said, well, you know, our party is going into talks with Democratic Party and National Party of Kenya, so tomorrow you'll be taking minutes with Mwai Kibaki and Charity Ngilu and Kijana Wamalwa. These were names I'd heard of, but I'd never really had to deal with. But I was lucky because when I got there, Charity Kaluki Ngilu, Waziri, had Cecily Mbarire. Mwai Kibaki had Mwangi Kiunjuri. So there we were, a team of young people, and we were able to support each other. And I've been lucky enough to find that the whole way through in my political life.
Right. And I'll be coming back to you, Balozi. Let me cross over to DNG. DNG, your hashtag currently on Twitter reads 10 years wiser. Indeed. And you're now mingling with big corporate names, politicians, ambassadors such as Yvonne Khamati right here. Are you 10 years wiser? What's it taken? Because you're pretty young.
Yes, I am young, but I don't think that's a limitation. I started my entertainment career, when I was in high school, to be precise. My first ever song played on a radio station, I remember that was Metro FM, the year 2003, straight after my KCSE examination. So, count those years, that's about 10 years. And I celebrated that, by just saying, I've had quite a journey. I've done this, I've done that. I've done everything from music to performing to being on radio, being on TV to emceeing, corporate gigs, emceeing, the launch of the Jubilee Coalition, name it. I've been there, I've done it.
Right. And back to you, Balozi. He's a jack of all trades. He's done a lot. But also for you, from politics to now being a diplomat, what does your job entail as a diplomat?
Well, first, I think it's the best job in the whole world because you get to mingle, you get to talk. It is a political position. Because a lot of what you're doing is ensuring that you retain the relationship between your country and another country, between citizens of that country and your country. You first have to learn the culture, you have to learn the attitude, you have to learn the people, and you have to learn to love them, because you cannot represent that which you do not understand. And that is a challenging fact. I remember the most challenging was getting to eat spaghetti, and in my current posting, which is my third. In my Somalia. First posting, when I was 24, I was appointed ambassador and deputy permanent representative to Ethiopia. And then Kenya mission to United Nations. Now I'm in Somalia. So this is my third posting. Spaghetti and camel meatballs and camel milk. Yeah. I tell you.
In a senior.
It was a challenge, I can tell you. But you know what? Till today, looking back at my first posting in Ethiopia, I love injera. I'm absolutely in love with the Ethiopian people and the Ethiopian culture. And that's where I'm going to spend my summer holidays. Okay. Starting from tomorrow.
And getting these plum positions, Yvonne, what does it take? A lot of people have been asking on social media today, how do you get yourself in a position where you actually get recognized, you get even noticed, and even given an opportunity to scale the heights that you have? Do you need to know somebody? Do you need to have a godfather? Do your parents need to be certain people in this, community for you to actually get a chance at making it?
Let me put it this way: my story is unique by God's grace. But I worked. By the time I was 18, I was juggling school, being an advisor, United Nations. I was the coordinator, World Youth Organization on Climate Change. From there, I was appointed by then President Mbeki, President Obasanjo, President Bouteflika as chair of the NEPAD Youth Technical Committee. I was commuting weekly to Pretoria, Midrand, really, in South Africa. I worked up the scale in international youth politics until the local politicians came and said to me, you need to come back home. And coming back home was a challenge. I got back in. I helped. I was part of the team that put NAC together alongside many young people. As I said, Kiunjuri, the Mbarires, Cape Batis, and so on and so forth. We were many. We campaigned. We fought. I ran for parliament. I was beaten. I was bruised. I was injured. I was insulted. I was fought. I was mocked. Anything that can happen to a young woman politician. I remember being called baby tuck. Happened to me at that point. But what kept me was the grace of God, the strength and the zeal to keep going and the determination that it is darkest before dawn. And I lost that election because I spent more time campaigning for then President Mwai Kibaki and the team. But I learned a lot. And I remember that when we were launching NAC, we went to South Africa for the World Summit on Sustainable Development to launch NAC with Martha Karua, Soita Shitanda, and Mukhesa Kitui and all. And it was the first one-on-one meeting I had with Moi. He was with Biwott, Marsden, Madoka, and Isaac Ruto. And I remember Biwott telling me the president wants to see you. And Jehu Gatabaki, I can never forget that. And he called me and he said, young lady, you're very confused. Why do you support a bunch of old people when you can support a young man? And I said, because I believe that this old person will ensure that issues of young people are brought to the fore.
And hold that thought, Yvonne. Just something that you said, and just coming to you, DNG, of late, and I listen to you on radio and just see your conversations on Twitter, you seem to be creating conversations that seem to be shaping the youth thinking, but also I've seen you paying courtesy calls to, Raila Odinga, a lot of prominent people in this society, and going back to what Yvonne said about just having mentors and whatever, and still tying to that question that I had asked her earlier, for you to get to where you've reached. Have you had people hold your hand? Have you had mentors? Do you know people in higher places? Is that what you would say is behind your success?
I think I want to agree with Ambassador Yvonne Khamati. When it comes to hard work, because that's what it took for me. Just hard work and persistence and consistency, perseverance. I can't really say that I had somebody who held my hand in the entertainment industry, because when I was getting in, it was a field that had no precedence. In fact, there were no systems. There was no money. So we were trying to figure out, in the darkness, where is this light at the end of the tunnel? I did what I do, and I still continue to do what I do because of the passion, because I love to entertain, I love to communicate, I love to make people dance. I'm going to make
we're going to see that shortly.
Yeah, we're going to do it
very, very shortly. But, you also have a company away from radio, away from TV presentations. What did it take in terms of capital? Do you have employees? I mean, you're going into this world where you now have to manage individuals and egos and still make money at the end of the day. Let's talk about
I think at this point, I just want to send a shout out to my mom. She's watching, by the way. She's Citizen
Hi,
Dami.
Mom.
And she gave me the capital to start my business. And I started it when I was in campus in the year 2007 into 2008. And I was trying to figure out what is incorporation, what is this business name. You have to figure it out. You have to go do a search. I did the whole process, and nobody helped me. I was doing business in school, in university, but that's not. They don't teach you how to practically set up a business.
Where in university?
I was in USIU.
USIU, okay.
Yeah, after University of Nairobi.
Okay.
And coming from that, I started my business in my mom's sitting room. Actually, the dining table was our, boardroom,
and now you have employees.
Now I have employees, and
How
I pay
many?
people. My team is very interesting because I have more people on contractual basis than permanent basis, because I do activations, road shows, concerts, things like that.
And who are your biggest clients, would you say? Who are your main clients?
I have both agency clients and direct clients. Agencies are, people who subcontract business to us, and direct clients are now corporations. So, I've worked with people like SAB Miller, Crown Beverages, Airtel.
And he's Kenya's most sought after entertainer. Every weekend you're at a gig. I see you tweeting. I'm like, really?
Across the country, even beyond the Republic of Kenya. And it's exciting because people are appreciating entertainment and what entertainment can do for corporate brands. If you're trying to launch a product and you use music, use an entertainer, use a personality, that's going to take your product or your service to the next level, which is what we do.
Okay, great. Let me come back to you, Balozi. And you were just talking about a gentleman that encouraged you at that time when the tide was a bit high. And I want to talk about the fact that among the highlights of Yvonne Khamati is that you'll go down in history as being an ICC witness. Tell us about that and how did that go?
Oh dear, Well, I actually learned that from Citizen TV when I heard my name. Apparently, Juan Moreno Ocampo took acting skills to ICC, and he believed that I was part of a team that organized and planned Mungiki meetings. And yes, I was a witness for Ambassador Francis Muthaura, a man that ushered me into the public service and encouraged me to go back to school and to read and to work harder and to stay on when things were very tough. And because I thought it's important the truth must be told. I know very many people, especially from where I come from. I happen to be a product of good neighborliness of the people of Kakamega and Siaya County. And I know that a lot of my people did not approve of my doing that. But, you know, I think everybody that sees something and witnesses something has a right to come out and say what it is, because it is not good to see innocent men and women go in for that which they have not done. We had a very wonderful meeting with the then Minister for Minister for Youth. I think he's now Senator, Honorable Kuti, the then PS for Youth, the late Murugu, and young people from the media, from the music industry, from the entertainment sector, people like Gorse Melango, we had Nyambane and so on and so forth, that came. And as a person that was in government, my role was to help bridge the gap between the young people that are outside, their wishes, and the government that, of course, at that time was a bit elderly. And one of the things we were saying is, Your Excellency, Mr. President, you need to listen to what young people want. We need to increase the youth fund, we need to increase the women's fund, we need to ensure copywriting is done for our musicians and so on and so forth. And that was the meeting that was then said, that was the meeting that was used to plan post-election violence.
Right, and good to have clarity on that. You've been a victim of cyberbullying, Balozi, and I want to talk about the fact that a lot of women in this, not in this country, but just a lot of women worldwide, women who are super achievers, alpha females, somehow find themselves in a position where they have to make excuses for their success. They have to feel bad about their success because people put them on the spot and say really nasty things, like the situation that you found yourself in, where somebody went on Twitter and went on a rampage to just discredit your success, said that basically your plum positions didn't come in very honorable ways, did not come out of merit, on merit rather. And you took this gentleman to court. Let's talk about that and why you just chose to take this person head on.
First and foremost, it was one of the most disturbing experiences that in my life. A lot of times people think that because you're a woman at the top, because you're a woman who has been successful, because you're a woman who has done it all and seen it all, that it's something that, you know, was given on a platter. Misconception, misperception, and it is actually extremely sad. The gentleman, Douglas Mango is his name, of course went on Twitter and social media to tarnish my name, and I decided that, you know, enough is enough, because I've seen a lot of women, Caroline Mutoko, yourself actually, I've seen you several times being insulted. Women like Paulina Woko and so on and so forth, Senator Naisula Lesuda, amazing strong lady from Samburu. I've seen their names being tarnished by people that have absolutely no clue the kind of hard work that has been put in to get them to that position and that office. And oftentimes, people don't know our histories. They do not know that I did not come into Kenyan politics. Kenyan leaders and politicians and parties came looking for me to say, we need help because we need to set up a youth agenda. And I had to give up my role, advisory role at the United Nations, to come back home. After I lost elections, for example, I was called by somebody that met me at the World Summit on Sustainable Development to come and help him set up the Young African Professionals Program at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. When the chairperson of Ford Kenya died, Honorable Kombo called me and said, I know this is going to be a sacrifice for you because we cannot pay you as much, but can you come back and help us set up this party? Because we need young people, we need new blood, and I want to lead the party. So I took Douglas to court. I had never seen the fella in my life. And to be honest, I sent my brother, Edward, my elder brother, to court. And I said, can you take a photo and WhatsApp me so that I can see him? And I had never seen this fella. So 1 month later, of course, he was put in remand at Industrial Area Police Station. He apologized and he looked for my family members. But when I went to court and I saw him, I felt sorry. And I think that, and my first thought was, You know, this is an idle young person who has nothing but hate and anger because of his situation.
I love that you said idol. I keep saying that actually. Let's talk to you about that, DNG, and the fact that I said you've been shaping conversations, and particularly the social media thing that's getting out of hand, and the fact that a lot of constructive energy could be put into other things. What are you shaping when you talk about the things that you talk about to the youth? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to, what are you trying to generate in terms of just attitude and talks and looking forward? What are you trying to do for the youth?
When I took up the breakfast show on 1FM last year, I was battling with what is this show going to be. Of course, I did my situational analysis and looked at what the competition is putting up, from sex to relationships to politics and all that. But I wanted to set up a platform and a voice for the Kenyan youth. Just the Kenyan youth, because as Mheshimiwa said, there's a lot that's going on that needs to be tabled, that needs to be discussed. These people are, as you say, a lot of people have nothing to do with their time. People are not employed. Unemployment is our biggest crisis, which leads to social vices, crime, drug abuse, name it. It emanates from there. So some of the things that we're talking about on my show, One Breakfast Reloaded, is, for example, the hustle. Our biggest segment is called the Hustle Yako Initiative. It's a 254 entertainment trademark that we've gone through the full process of copywriting that and all. And our agenda is just to inspire young people and empower them and just create that new perspective. That new understanding that I can be somebody. I may not have gone to school. My dad may not be connected. I may not have any parents, but I can be somebody. And
you also talked about the new generation of socialites that's coming up, and the fact that a lot of young girls are looking at this as being the ideal and being what's cool. That as long as you're pretty and you've got good clothes and
well
whatever.
endowed.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that, but that's the ultimate, and that's where everybody's looking. I love that you brought up. But DNG, as we just finish, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? Because there's this talk, there's this belief that you get the fame too fast and then it fades equally as fast.
Well, I think 10 years in an industry speaks for itself. I think that's the test of time. A lot of artists do one song, fizzle out. You never hear from them. But I've been able to reinvent all the time, and entertainment demands that. Just to talk about the socialites for a minute, I think a lot of young people are misguided. And it comes from peer pressure, it comes from lack of mentors, lack of advice. We grow up without parents, without fathers, without mothers, and what you see on TV, on BET, on MTV basis, what you take home, and this is what's up. If I see Kim Kardashian being paid because she got an implant, I'm gonna do that. And you see chicks doing that. I was talking about that this week. But what we don't consider is those 10 years from now. What will I be? Who will I be? What's my reputation? What's my brand worth? And that's one thing that we need to take home. And that's what I preach all the time, that be very careful about what you do, who you let into your life, and what you let into your life.
Yeah, that's true. And you recently announced your engagement.
Yes.
To everybody, when is the wedding? We want to know. And you're pretty young as well. Why that leap of faith so early?
I think first and foremost, my wedding is next year. You're invited. I'll send you a card.
Yay! What are we wearing?
Shopping in Paris.
So I'll give you details at the proper time. Why I decided to get married? Because I'm ready.
You're ready.
And as a young man, if you've been there, done that, what else?
Have you been there, done that?
To do, I have been there, done that, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not apologetic to anybody, because the thing is, there's a time for everything. There's a time for being wild. You know what I mean? There's a time to down that bottle of whiskey and finish it. But after that, we must grow up. You know what I mean? We must grow up, and a lot of people in this country have refused to grow up. You find 50-year-old men trying to take home an 18-year-old chick who's in first year.
That's what they're saying.
That's
nowadays. They're turning down for what?
They didn't live their life.
So heri umalize. Uanze, ufanye, umalize, alafu uwe mtu serious.
Good. Balozi, what message do you have to the youth as we wind up? A lot of people have been asking questions, and just topping the list of those questions is the fact that, do you need to know somebody? Do you need to be the product of a privileged upbringing to scale these heights? Just talk to the youth of this nation and indeed diaspora, the ones that are sitting home, the ones that are not even as vocal and well-spoken as you guys, who know they have it in them, but have just never gotten the opportunity or just a little bit of a nudge from somebody to go out there and do it.
Let me say it this time, first time on live media and TV. I'm not, and I was not the product of a privileged family. I was brought up, my mother was just about to graduate when I was born. So I was born into my aunt's home. She was still continuing with school. I went to Eregi Girls in Ikolomani for a year when my grandfather was unwell. He was suffering from cancer then, and my mom thought that it was important that he had a bit of her with him. I left, went to Shepherd's Junior, went to Visa Oshel before my mom went to pursue her PhD, her doctorate in Manchester, and that's when I left to go with her.
And you know you have that British thing going on slightly. You have that accent.
I was young. I was 9, and I went to Manchester to stay with her, and that's where I did most of my schooling, and came back. And for me to get into the international world was because I joined school activities, Model United Nations. Model United Nations. And when I joined MUN, it was because of punishment, not because I wanted to. But I made a statement, and there was a gentleman in the hall that listened to what I had to say. And he looked for me and he said to me, "Young lady, can I have your mother's contact?" And she was an environmental scientist. She is. She's director of, she's in African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, and took my number and said that I needed training in environmental affairs, because he thought my grasp of the environmental world was amazing for this black African girl from Kenya. And I worked and I was trained, and I gave up quite a bit from the time I was then 16. Came back to Kenya and joined Peponi School. So you can be anything you want to be from anywhere you are. It does not matter whether you come from Yoranidaho, from Eregi, or...
Salimia Waluya nyumbani.
Kwanza na salamia my senator that I always fight with the Mheshimiwa. But I also want to say that you need a support team.
Yeah.
A great support team.
Great.
And one thing that I've had in my life is a family. My mother, my siblings, my mother is a queen, and she makes me understand the power of a woman. That she can be a mother, she can be a student, she can be a scientist, and she can be everything. But every single day she finds time to say to me, "I love you and God bless you."
That is well said, Balozi. And DNG, as we close very quickly, of course, he's a hype man, and he'll be telling us just what a hype man does, doing it to Balozi over here.
I promised I was going to send salamos to a few people, and I want to send salamos to somebody who I know works with Citizen, Mama Zahari, Jackie Marive, and Fred, and Team Fortune, Koroga, and everybody else. Ningependako kutumako salamu kwenyu nawapenda sana. You guys are amazing, and the choir, and the friends, and everything else. And young people, you want to get somewhere, you need to have real friends. I have Vinny O. I always thank God for him.
Oh, yeah,
real
bless
friends,
him.
Very few that will stand by you, that will tell you the truth and tell you you're wrong, you're right, and that you can count on. And this lady too, she's an amazing woman.
Oh, thank you. So as we close, Mr. Hype Man, just we're pressed for time.
Real quick.
Talk to the youth. They'll listen to you. They will listen to you. They listen to you. They usually listen to you.
Every day, every single morning. And my message is the same. Just believe in yourself and with what you have. You don't have to know somebody. You don't have to be super rich or super wealthy or from a wealthy background. Just believe in your skill. Whatever it is that you do, do it, you know, with a world-class perspective. Kama weni mtu kuosha gari, osha yo gari mzeya. You know what I mean? If you're somebody who wants to cook for people, mandazi, make the best mandazis in that area. Just be you. And
good. I loved this show. Okay, it's Friday, so it's time to party. So this guy, I mean, we don't know, what's a hype man? You know, you need to show them what a hype man does.
I need to show you, man.
Yeah.
Is the mic on? Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Yeah! Of course, I got my selector, DJ Crossfade on the ones and twos, homie. Turn it up. Tough for Dolly.
Lillian, you better dance.
I got my dancers right here. Ladies, come on. Turn down for what? Come on. Yeah. Turn down for what? Come on. Yeah. Balozi, come on, shake that. Oh. Akuna tafadhali hapa mzeya.
Let's go. Come on. Citizen TV, baby. Come on. Now, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Party, put so, come on, shake that. Come on, wind that. Come on, shake that. Come on, wind that. Come on, shake that. Come on, wind that. Somebody said, pull up. Is that enough?
That's enough. Oh, and by the way, wow, yeah, he's a hype man. That's what hype men do. I was actually enjoying myself a bit too much.
You know.
So last week, Jeff Koinange was right here on One-on-One, and we promised to give away a book, and the lucky winner is, drumroll. Let's take a look. Gosh, I'm out of breath. The lucky winner, the guy that's taking home Jeff Koinange's Through My African Eyes, is R.P. Chipkizi. At R.P. Chipkizi, that's your name. You get to take home Jeff Koinange's Through My African Eyes, R.P. Chipkizi. Come through to our offices, Royal Media Services, Malim Juma Road. Come with your ID and we'll give this to you. Okay? Great. Congratulations, R.P. Chipkizi. Jeez. Okay, I know that's not what your ID reads, but just come and give this name at the security gate and we'll give you the book. My guests tonight have been awesome. I'm sure you guys have taken a lot home. Balozi, Ambassador Yvonne Khamati, thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for your wise words. And indeed, DNG, thank you so much. Thank you for being the voice of the youth. Thank you for watching. It's hashtag One-on-One. Let's do this again next Friday. Good night.
Nani atanipa